396-417-528. This is in the book that you mentioned, Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse. That book came out in 1999. It's 10 years old now, and that is revolutionizing everything, beginning with the music industry and beginning with medicine. We are currently evolutionizing, evolving, revolving, and that word revolution, revolving, means going in a circle, going back to the roots, going back to what was once known to be sacred and honored. And then, so the designing of, let's say, cell phones or our energy systems, if we simply place the frequencies of resonance, like your electrical systems in the United States, I'm not sure what they are in Europe, but they operate at 60 cycles per second or 60 hertz. Well, gee whiz, if you just simply tuned it up or down to match some of the core creative frequencies of nature, then you would not be getting the cancers. You wouldn't be getting the behavioral disorders and the depression and the neurochemical changes within the body. Again, why? Because the body is a physical body, and it's operating from bioelectricity, bioenergy, electromagnetism, electrogenetics. All of this is having a major effect on manifesting us and keeping us healthy. And or if we don't tune into that frequency, if we get in dissonance or dis-ease, we then become sick. We get cancers. Our immune systems fail to do what they've been designed to do. And this is the poisoning. The primary poisoning, therefore, is spiritual warfare. I mean, this is what the Muslims who are protesting, even those so-called radical terrorists, are saying. This is a holy war that we're conducting. Well, gee whiz, they're right. We are being decimated because there's a spiritual suppression, and the electromagnetic manipulation of the entire world's population is the core issue. If we want to renew ourselves, restore ourselves, and renew our planet, we got to tune into the love. We got to tune into the frequency of love. That's the core frequency of God, a core frequency of nature. Not live according to man's laws and man's manipulations, and that goes in from mathematics to music. It's been manipulated. Now that we have the core revelations of the core frequencies that sustain everything throughout the universe, we can now redesign our technologies.
Absolutely, and that's a very good idea. Again, it's maybe I've held that theory for some time now as well. It's not about just destroying the old in that sense in order to pave way for the new, but we can reconstruct the systems that we have and still use the knowledge that actually is in effect. If we return a little bit and talk about the electronic systems that we have everywhere, or the electronics, the watts, the hertz, the voltage, etc. I think we have 50 hertz up here in Sweden, by the way. But do you think that that's rooted out of stupidity, or do you think that the people who actually constructed our electrical grid knew about this and consciously put in these types of frequencies in order to keep us, a bad health and lower our immune system, etc.?
Yes, and that's the sad reality. Henrik, we have proven that scientifically, mathematically, statistically. What you just said, you advanced the thesis, is this manipulation of everything from energy systems to our music a conscious act of manipulation, of dumbing down the population? Yes, definitively so. And I can give you some examples of how we prove that.
Yes.
You want to hear some?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, please.
Well, the number one greatest example is the music, where the standard tuning for the world is currently held at 440 hertz frequency. And where did that come from? That came from 1917. The Rockefeller Foundation had paid the American Federation of Musicians to change it to 440. And it didn't go well. It was not well received. It was received well by this federation, and they did it because they were being paid a lot of money to do it. But basically, worldwide musicians and composers protested. Well, so what the Rockefellers did, along with the Rothschilds and the Carnegies and the Vanderbilts that were funding what was called eugenics, that was the racial hygiene program that Hitler took on, is they gave the whole project of changing the frequencies of music for standard tuning to Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister for the Third Reich. And it was Goebbels then that was successful in creating the worldwide movement of 440 hertz standard tuning. Now, we now know mathematically and through music research, musicology and electromagnetic frequency, and applying all of this in the realm of physics and neurology, we now know that that choice of 440 hertz frequency is the equivalent to what is in nature to be the most dissonant tone to love.
Really?
It is actually in musicology known as the, quote, devil's interval.
Okay.
And that literally what they did is they created 440 hertz, which, I'll just throw it out, is the equivalent of the fifth note of the original musical scale. It's 741 hertz frequency, and that ultimately the interval between 528 hertz love and 741 or 440 is the most dissonant and undermining of your basic homeostasis that you can play. And so you have to think about the statistically significant analysis process here. They could have chosen thousands and thousands of different frequencies.
Yeah.
They could have chosen sub-frequencies. They could have chosen 440.50 or 440.33. They didn't. They chose 440, which is the exact precise equivalent to that precise tone that produces the greatest dissonance.
Incredible. Incredible. And do you know if there's any musicians around today that have adopted another frequency? I know that there's a few going around, and let's say 5.8 then, for example. Do you know if there's any musicians out there that have adopted that?
Yes, worldwide. That's why I'm saying we are revolutionizing the entire music industry. It will be the first industry that really fully, totally just moves and shifts because the musicians have been suppressed. The entire industry is controlled. The greatest celebrities are basically imprisoned by the system.
Yeah.
For example, the Concert for the Living Water, you may not see, like Sting, you may not see the greatest geniuses really in the celebrity world, even though they would like to participate. Their managers, their manipulators, their movers and shakers are not going to allow it. And the reason for that is pretty obvious. At the top, you've got some pretty intense control over this planet, and most musicians know it. Now, what we're planning for the concert is all the people who are conscious musicians and vocalists who get what we're talking about and have the eyes to see, ears to hear this kind of information, and then do their due diligence. Go online to, for example, the website that is serving the music world right now for helping people to retune and understand this whole concept that we want to be playing the same music that the birds and the bees are humming to and singing to. And that's on www.love528.com. Love528.com has guitar retuning instructions. We just put on YouTube for free. There's 2 parts. It's called Solfeggio Retuning Instructions for Synthesizers. So the world's leading synthesizer composers are now able to retune their Korg instruments and the better synthesizers to this love frequency, so that when you play it, suddenly, if you're sensitive at all spiritually, and most musicians, of course, are,
Yes.
suddenly your heart opens. Suddenly you breathe easier. Suddenly your whole body starts to vibrate. There's another note. Let me give you another example. 417 hertz, the universal frequency of resonance, like do, re.
Yes.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol. Do, re. The re note means resonance theperis in Latin or resonance in English. That frequency is 417 hertz. That's easy to tune your guitars to using the Korg chromatic tuner. And you tune your instrument to that, and you sit it down, and you walk away. And very commonly, that guitar will start to play itself. It'll start to literally, the strings will start moving and actually increasing as it's moving. It'll start like slight, and then it'll get louder and louder, because the universe is in that resonance. So that you've got literally the entire force of the universe pushing that instrument to play in harmony with it.
Incredible. Wow, that's really interesting. So there's a few different websites that we can give out again straight away here. www.love528.com, and then again another one you mentioned before there was liveh2o.org, another one. And Len, I think actually this is a good time to begin to round things up here for this segment and then continue in our member section. But before we do that, I do want to plug your first ever, as it were, appearance here over in Europe. It's going to really interesting to see you there, of course. And what are some of the areas that you'll be addressing at the AV2 conference, Len?
Well, yeah, just a clarification. This is my first time in London and first time invitation to speak in England. I've spoken extensively in France, and I'm looking forward very, very much to coming to England. I'm going to bring my family because they've never been there. And your question is, what am I going to be speaking on?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're going to go into everything from the risks of vaccinations and medical intoxications and the manipulations that are ongoing that are decimating humanity to the great news. How do we get out of this mess?
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Again, for everyone that is interested in attending the conference, coming over there to London at the end of May, you can simply go to thealternativeview.co.uk and you can read more about it from there as well, with more links and so forth. And also, Len, before we round things up here for the first segment, mention a few of your websites again and a few of the titles that you recommend for people that might be new to your work and just want to dive into it and begin at some place, so to speak.
Sure.